Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Crucial Talks podcast. Hope everyone's doing well. I'm Mike Sedam, the host of the Crucial Talks podcast, where we believe if we want to understand behavior, we need to understand what drives people. If you get a chance, could you please subscribe to, review, and share the podcast? I'd really appreciate it. And to those of you that have been listening for a while, you already know this, but for any new listeners, you'll see that this podcast is all about the human side of everything we do. It's really about people. It's about the fact that no matter what system we're in, no matter what technology we have at our fingertips, and no matter how much money we throw at an issue, success comes down to people interacting. We look at people as solutions, not as problems to be fixed. We know that social motivation, like a feeling of belonging, connections with others, and gaining esteem from group belonging is extremely powerful. And that's why I feel really fortunate to welcome today's guest, Cheryl Rice. Cheryl holds a degree in psychology, a Master of Science in Counseling, and a Master of Science in Organizational Development. But what's really impressive is not her degrees or the groundbreaking research she completed on the relationship between emotional intelligence and team performance. It really is the cool stuff she has done with that knowledge. She founded a leadership coaching firm called Your Voice, Your Visions. And what we're talking about today is the nonprofit she founded called the You Matter Marathon. Her nonprofit is where we're going to focus because it really has a great message. I think it's not only a worthwhile mission, but it also has some lessons in how we are stronger when we team up and share a goal that is bigger than ourselves. So without further ado, let's welcome Cheryl Rice to the Crucial Talks podcast. How are you, Cheryl?
I'm terrific, Mike. Thank you for having me.
Anytime. Hey, before we get into the You Matter Marathon and the specifics about that movement, can you tell us a little bit about you and the journey you took to get to the place you are today where you are trying to enrich lives through positive connections?
I'd be delighted to, Mike. So as you said, I'm a leadership coach and speaker, and I've had a practice for over 15, 16 years now. And recently I had an experience actually about 2 years ago now that was so profoundly positive and moving to me. It catapulted my life and many other lives now in an entirely new direction. A colleague had given me a business-sized card with only the words, "You matter" on it. And I was so moved that I went out and ordered my own cards and started sharing them, first with family and friends, then with people in my community. And then one day I was in the grocery store standing behind a woman in the checkout counter. And I overheard her tell the cashier she was really struggling. In fact, she said she didn't know how she was going to get through the holidays. And I didn't quite know what to do. So at that moment, I did nothing. Then after I checked out, I bumped into her as we were returning our carts. And I said, I couldn't help but overhear you're having a really hard time right now. I just want you to have this. And I gave her a You Matter card. And she started to cry. And she said, "You have no idea what this means to me." And she asked if we could hug. And so we did. And then I returned to my car and started to cry myself, probably different tears than the ones she was shedding, but it was really tears of profound connection with another human being. And it was at that time I was ironically completing a program, a certificate program in applied positive psychology. And my classmates knew how turned on I was about these cards. And we had a final project. And I combined that visceral experience with the woman in the grocery store with a desire to kind of reach high in my final project and came up with this program called the You Matter Marathon, no running required. It's really vital that your audience understand that because I couldn't run a marathon running race to save my life. But the You Matter Marathon is really a race of the heartstrings where we're inspiring people, other people all over the world actually, to give out You Matter cards and to have what we call You Matter magic moments.
It sounds like the You Matter Marathon, again, it's not about running, thank goodness, because I wouldn't do it. This is not an exercise podcast, but it really is about that human element. So the You Matter Marathon sounds to me like it is completely about positive interactions between people and what that can change with folks. Is that really what this movement, what this thing is all about that you're trying to do?
You nailed it, Mike. Absolutely. At its heart, it's about creating positive connections between individuals and within communities. Jane Dutton, who's a professor and researcher, a scholar, actually studies what she calls high quality connections and the impact of these interactions in organizations in terms of productivity, loyalty, commitment, engagement. And my initiative, which is now belongs to many, many people all over the world, inspires people to create these connections for themselves via this small, simple card. And the card, just so your listeners again can have a visual, Mike, it's the size of a business card. It's completely white. And on one side of the card in black type font says "You Matter" in capital letters. And that's it. There's nothing else. And we find that that message in and of itself is so simple and so profound, it needs no adornment.
Well, and I think this is really great because this movement, the thing you're trying to do here, really goes in line with what we've had a lot of business coaches and consultants talk about here on the podcast, and what I've talked about myself and what I bring up to people is the fact that these social motivators are so much more beneficial and so much more profound than any money motivation that's out there. Any pay performance plan, anything like that is so small compared to what you can do when people feel like they are connected, when they feel like they're part of a team, when they feel like there's other people around them that share goals. But what you're doing is you're basically saying it's not only beneficial between people and in a business. You're saying, look, communities, the entire world, really, if you can expand this big enough, can benefit from something like this where people can connect.
Absolutely, Mike. I mean, we're in such an environment that is focused so much on transactions, and we don't even see the people we're transacting with. And having You Matter cards in our pockets and finding moments or creating moments to share them turns simple transactions into powerful connections. And this is what people are yearning for. We have all these ways of connecting, and yet we know that social isolation is at an all-time high. And even on college campuses, which always astounds me, for instance, the rates of loneliness are high and anxiety, etc. People are feeling incredibly disconnected. It's an incredible paradox because we do have so many ways of connecting, and yet these connections are hollow if we don't really give positive messages that inspire belonging and connection and appreciation. And these cards are kind of like training wheels, if you will, to help us relearn something that used to be, I believe, incredibly innate and common. And for a lot of reasons, it's not so common anymore, that people really have ways to make connections that are high quality and not only do good, but they feel great.
And that's another great point, because we do talk about how decision-making is emotional, and this ability to feel great changes the lens you're looking through in your world, whatever that world happens to be at the time. If you feel good, you see good things. And I think the world really needs more of that. And what I want to get out there is the fact that, you talked about the You Matter cards. You talked about what they look like, that it's basically a single business side card that says You Matter. But what I also want people to know is, although this is a physical card and you can give it to somebody and have a physical connection right there, face to face, I've been online to the You Matter Marathon website, and I'm seeing that not only do these cards, they allow people to connect in communities and directly one-on-one, but as the stories get out there, what I'm seeing is these stories can have an impact. The story of one person giving a card to another, and then that card being passed to somebody else, and how that actually works to influence how people behave and how they feel, is getting a little farther out there besides just the card, because of the way that the stories are spreading. Have you seen that from being on the side of the website and of the movement, where you can see it spread beyond just the people changing the cards out?
Absolutely, Mike. In fact, you're bringing up an excellent point, really, about the positive social contagion that happens. And I want to make clear that we inspire and we invite people to give out one card a day during the month of November, and the cards are free. And we have a Facebook community, You Matter Marathon, where people share, as you know, receive You Matter cards. And that alone, reading those stories, which are especially active in the months of November and December, are so uplifting. And we even have a guest book on our website, if people don't want Facebook, where people write stories about their experiences with the cards. And I think that is social modeling for people and gives other people ideas for spreading the You Matter message in their way. Perhaps they're not interested in sharing cards, but they find other ways of making this kind of connection with this language. So we're all for that. So we do have a forum, actually 2 forums for people to share and build connections and community. So we call the people who participate in the marathon Yummies. And it is a delicious experience, I can assure you of that.
Well, and it sounds like a great thing that we really need. I mean, there's so much negativity in the world, and the messages being pushed out through those single direction multimedia platforms like news channels and things like that seem to be a single direction of negative stories and that sort of stuff that gives us negative feelings and impacts us in negative ways. But this is more of a networking and a way to push out through multiple channels a positive message. So what I wanted to ask you is, this is really a social movement that can have a positive impact. But what we see, not only in those single channel multimedia or those media outlets being negative, we also see that in social media, though. So, I mean, there's a good side and bad side to everything. So before we move on a little bit more about the benefits and empowerment people receive from something like this, can you talk to us just quickly about how social media can actually make us feel isolated and alone?
Well, I think social media is often about likes, and it's about looking for quick hits of affirmation and not really creating intimacy, frankly, and not creating moments where people feel seen, where most of the time people post things on social media that are sanitized or embellished. And while that might seem like a shortcut to approval, what it really does is keep us more and more isolated, because we feel like unless we have the right lighting or the right, filters on our phones when we're posting, or have had the most perfect meal, that we're not acceptable. And I think that's where part of the downside, the liabilities of that medium can get in our way of what people really crave, which is to be known for who they really are, warts and all. And that's what, again, this kind of connection says you matter just because you're a human being, not because you have had the perfect vacation with the perfect family or the perfect meal. And I think it's really, really vital that we get back to being able to honor each other's authenticity and significance just because we're here, just because we're human beings.
Well, and that goes back to the fact that we do, through social storytelling, belong together. I mean, we are the only social being on the entire planet that can share these feelings with each other, that can construct realities with each other. And we really are powerful because of that. And that's why we're so successful. And we've talked a little bit about it during this episode and past episodes about the benefits people get from social belonging and how social esteem and social belonging actually can drive performance and motivation and give people these good feelings. So can you tell us a little bit about the psychological benefits and empowerment people receive from participating in the You Matter Marathon?
They're significant. And one of the most impactful elements of this learnings I've had, this will be our 3rd year, Mike. So we've had 2 years of doing this, and we've had over 75,000 people participate. And one of the things that I've discovered is that the people who participate in giving out the cards are incredibly empowered by this experience. And people tell me, and they fill out surveys and they find ways of communicating how impactful doing this, and basically an intervention for 30 days, has been to them in terms of their own well-being. And they tell me that they feel at the end of the month more grateful. They feel more connected to other human beings. They feel more optimistic. I mean, really powerful outcomes for the people who participate, which after all is kind of all we can control. I know we have a lot of anecdotal data about the impact on recipients of You Matter cards, and sometimes people tell us what the impact is. Of course, the impact on me was so great, I created this movement. So it varies, but we do now have data on the impact on participants. And so I'm very much a proponent of supporting the Yummies who choose to do this, because I know the benefits for them are significant.
Well, and what you said is pretty awesome here, because what we've talked about before, and the fact that we're social storytellers, the fact that people are driven by social belonging and emotions, goes back to the fact that, yes, these benefits for some people may be anecdotal, but you know what? That's kind of okay, because the data may point one way, but people aren't driven by that data. People are driven by the connections and the stories. And I would just ask people to get more information about this. And if they go to the website at youmattermarathon.com, just read some of the stories, and you can see that there is a feeling out there. There's a tangible change, something is happening by reading these stories. And we see it at the individual level, and we just talked about the individual benefits. But I also know there are a number of organizations that have adopted this movement. Have you heard anything back from them? Any feedback from this long list of organizations that have supported this movement, where they're actually seeing benefits in the organization, in the community, or in the business itself?
Absolutely, Mike. And thank you for mentioning that. People can sign up as individuals or as groups. And we call those groups ambassador organizations. And the list of them is on the website. And just reading the list of all of those groups is a kick, because you see how many awesome organizations doing amazing things in the world are out there and have found us. So yes, I had one practitioner actually in California write to me. She works with gang prevention and people in gangs. And she literally said, this is a quote, we have it somewhere on our website, it was so profound, that the You Matter Marathon, when she introduced it to her community of these youngsters, young men and women, that it was the most profound experience in 40 years for them to participate in the You Matter Marathon. So we have schools participate. We've had people incarcerated participate, certainly people in religious organizations, and they do tell us, and they come back time and time again, because they want to be part of this. A school system in Pittsburgh, this will be their third year doing it, and they incorporate it into their social and emotional learning curriculum. And certainly schools who have anti-bullying initiatives and character development initiatives and kindness clubs find the You Matter Marathon is a lovely practice. It's a lovely program to run. So yes, groups are benefiting from this as well.
Well, I would add to that I'm looking right now at the list. So you have schools, you have a yoga studio, I think it's maybe even a Boy Scout troop. There's schools at all different levels, high schools, there's elementary schools, there's doctor's offices, there's single classrooms, there's travel agencies, there's all of these different groups involved. And I think it really points to a huge point that we need to make, and that is all of these groups see a benefit, and the individuals see a benefit, because they're all systems where we count on people. So it doesn't seem to matter what kind of business you're in, if it's nonprofit, if it's for-profit, if it's a school. It doesn't seem to matter what industry it is or what group it is. It really points to the fact that people need to connect. And that is what this You Matter Marathon is trying to do, and has been, I feel, somewhat successful, but can be so much more successful by getting more influencers out there that can make these connections. And the more we make, I really think it does benefit everyone, because we are people. And it just seems so great that you have so many different types of people involved, so many different backgrounds, and from all over different parts of the country and even the world. I mean, I see South Africa, I see Canada. I mean, this could truly be a global movement. So have you seen, I mean, we talked about the individuals and we talked about groups and organizations, but have you seen that even though there's different groups in different parts of the world that adopt it, just because they're in different parts of the world with a different culture, do you still see them getting the same type of benefit?
I have limited data on that, but the countries that have given me feedback have said absolutely. India comes to mind, and Australia comes to mind, and New Zealand comes to mind. I've heard from people in those countries specifically. In fact, there is a woman in New Zealand who partnered with her pharmacy, and she is a hospice worker, and she made it so the pharmacist would put You Matter cards in the prescription packages so that the caregivers of people whose spouses were in hospice would pick up their medicine and find 2 You Matter cards, one for the person dying and one for their caregiver. So we know, and that's in New Zealand. And if you would ask me, Mike, at the beginning of this, when I was doing a project and I thought, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we could get maybe 300 people to be involved and give out like 10,000 cards? And I thought that was ambitious. And I'm so proud to tell you that we're in 66 countries and we've given out almost 500,000 cards. And you're right, we're just warming up, which is why you and I are talking, because I'm so appreciative of your passion for this project. And I hope your listeners feel your passion as well as mine and will sign up to participate, receive their 30 free cards, and spread the magic, because it's nothing short of magical. And it's so, so vital right now. People are craving this kind of connection, and we can do it. We can do it together.
I absolutely believe that, and can tell everybody that has been listening to this podcast, or brand new listeners, that everything we talk about is about people. It's not just restricted to the United States or North America. It's really global. It's about how people behave as social storytellers, as people that want social belonging. It doesn't matter the culture, where they grew up, what language they speak. Everybody everywhere is driven by emotions and this need for social belonging and connection. So this really is a great movement. So Cheryl, before we let you go, if somebody is interested on getting involved with this movement, where can they go and what do they expect? How easy is it to get the cards? What do you do with them when you get them? I mean, really just kind of walk us through quickly what somebody who's interested right now, that goes right now onto the website, what do they do? What do they expect? How quick? And then what's the goal of the movement? I think you said for the month of November. What's the actual goal for what they'll be trying to do when they get the cards?
It's quite simple. Go to youmattermarathon.com. youmattermarathon.com. There's a sign-up page. You put in your information, which is mailing address and name. And if you sign up as an individual, we will mail you 30 You Matter cards for free. The mailing starts to happen the middle of October. You'll have your cards by November 1st. And we're asking that you give out 1 card a day during the month of November. That's all that's required. And that's it. If you're an organization, you do the same thing, except you'll sign up as an ambassador. You'll still receive 30 cards for free. And we also then tell you how you can either print or purchase as many cards as you need for your organization. And so you'll be prepared. And cards are honestly not that expensive at all, but if cost is an issue, we also give you a card template so you could print your own. So there's no barriers to participation. If you want to be among like-minded people when you're going through this, we have the Facebook community, You Matter Marathon. You can check it out now and just see for yourself what kind of magic is being spread and has been spread. That's as simple as it gets, and we want to make it as accessible and easy and inviting for people as possible. Just to answer that last part, we're shooting to give out 2 million cards in November. But I know, frankly, that even 1 card share can change somebody's life. It changed mine. So if everybody can give out 30 cards, that would be awesome.
Well, and that I love what you said there, because it really, yes, the goal is to get the cards up there, but the cards are a vessel for what really matters, and that's the social connection and network that you're trying to get out there with this positive message on let's get back to what drives people and motivates people and promotes those good feelings. And that is the social belonging and connecting, truly connecting with people, not just a quick connection, but something that actually can change behavior and emotions. I really think it's a great movement. Again, that's youmattermarathon.com. And that will be in the show notes for anybody that forgets how to get there. Again, I ask that you go there, check it out, sign up, because it really is. It's truly a great thing. And when Cheryl reached out to talk on the podcast and I looked at what was going on, I thought, wow, it really fits with everything we talk about. So Cheryl, I really want to thank you so much for being on the show. And if there's any other information you want to provide to us right now, please do. Or if there's any other information you want to give us about how people get in contact with you, any other services you offer or anything like that, that'd be great to let people know right now.
You Matter Marathon is really where it's at. If you want to reach me, I'm at Cheryl Rice at Comcast.net. My business is yourvoiceyourvision.com. But primarily, Mike, right now my mission is to get these cards in the hands of all the people who would so benefit of them. And the last thing I'll say, Mike, is you matter. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much, Cheryl. And hey, everyone, if you have a chance, I'd love for you to visit the Crucial Talks website at www.crucialtalks.com and connect with me via email or on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter, because it really is about connecting. So if you need anything from me, would like me to speak to your organization, please reach out. I'm always here for you. And if you could do me a quick favor and share the podcast, leave a review and rate it, that would also help a lot, because it'll help people find these great interviews just like the one we had with Cheryl. Have a great week. And remember, if we want to understand behavior, we need to understand what drives people.